Welcome folks, my name is Tom Beatty. I'm the chair of the Web Design and Development program at Newmont College of Computer Science, and today we're going to do some JavaScript programming. Okay, we're going to look at switch case statements. I've gone ahead and I've created a new folder. I've got my standard index.html, my script.js, and I'm running this in the browser. Right now I've got nothing because there's nothing in my script. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new variable. We'll say let a equal 5. And we will say switch a. And so that's an expression. Right now, all we've got in here is the variable, but we can modify that later. And I'll open up some curly braces here. And I'm going to say case 3, and I put a colon there. That's a full colon, not a semicolon. And basically it's checking to see if a equals 3, and if it equals 3 it's going to say console.log the answer is 3. And then after that, I want to put a break. And you put the break in there to make sure that it quits out of the switch statement and doesn't look at any of the other cases. But in this case, if a equals 4, then we'll say the answer is 4. And we put our break here. Oh. Put another case, case 5, console.log, the answer is 5. And since that is what a actually equals, this is the one that will run. It'll take a look at case and see that a is not 3, and it'll bypass this. It'll look here and say a is not 4. So then it will come here and it'll say a is 5. So it's going to run this code. It will console log the answer is 5, and then we'll jump out of the switch case. All right. Then I'm also going to put in a default. And this would get run if a is not 3, 4, or 5. If none of these cases are true, then it will run the default. The answer is not 3, 4, or 5. And I don't need a break at the end of the default because we're at the end of the switch anyway. So it will jump out and be finished. Let's test this. So I'm going to hit Control S to save. And I refresh and it says the answer is 5. And if I were to change it to say 3, save it, the answer is 3. And if I changed it to 7, well, then it's not 3, 4, or 5, so it will run the default. And boom, there we go. Okay, so I'll change this back to 5, so everything's working. So that's a switch case where you're using a number, but you could just as easily use a string if you wanted to. So I could say let person equal Bob, and since Bob's a string, let's put that in quotes. You can put it in double or single quotes because it's JavaScript, it doesn't care. But I could then say switch person. And I could say case, and if the case is Bob, which it is, then we'll set our species. We should probably declare our species variable. So let species, and we'll set our species to, well, we learned earlier in one of the earlier videos that Bob is in fact a zombie. And we still need our break in there. And then we can put a case where Let's say the person is Suzette. Species equals vampire. Put our break in there. Case Harry. Species equals werewolf. And our break. And then, if person is not Bob, Suzette, or Harry, then it runs the default, and we will make our species human. And so, if I run this now, we get our answer is 5. Oh, it would probably help. Since I didn't console log in these, let's actually console log species at the end. There we go. And we've got zombie because person is Bob. Oh, I should spell vampire correctly too. So since we've got vampire spelled correctly, let's try making our person Suzette. We refresh, we get a vampire. All that's working great. Now, I should probably mention that these are actually expressions. I'm just putting a variable in here, but I could just as easily put a plus 1. And so a plus 1, that would be 5 plus 1, is going to be 6. So it's not going to be 3, 4, or 5. So if I saved that and I ran it, the answer is not 3, 4, or 5. Or I could put in a minus 1, which would make it 4, and sure enough, it says the answer is 4. So that's a switch case for you. It's actually 2 switch cases. Essentially, they work very much like having multiple if statements. In fact, you could write multiple if statements instead and get the same basic result. Switch cases are perhaps a little bit easier to read if you are testing on the same variable or expression. Alright, if you like this video, please hit subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. I will provide more content in the future and keep it entertaining for you. Thanks a lot.